This is the story of Africa in the 1900s, a century of struggle, resistance, and ultimately rebirth. At the turn of the century, a map of Africa looked starkly different from today. European powers, in what's known as the Scramble for Africa, had carved up nearly the entire continent. Lines drawn on maps in distant European capitals suddenly defined the destinies of millions, splitting ethnic groups and lumping rivals together. But this wasn't a passive takeover. Across the continent, the spirit of resistance was alive and well. In Ethiopia, Emperor Menelik II had already scored a stunning victory against Italy at the Battle of Adwa in 1896, securing his nation's sovereignty. His success sent shockwaves across the globe and became a beacon of hope for colonized peoples everywhere. Elsewhere, leaders like Ya Asantewaa of the Ashanti Empire in modern-day Ghana led valiant, though ultimately unsuccessful, wars against British encroachment. From the Maji Maji Rebellion in German East Africa to countless other uprisings, Africans were not silent victims. They were active agents fighting for their freedom. Colonial rule was a system built on exploitation. The primary goal was to extract wealth: rubber from the Congo, cocoa from the Gold Coast, diamonds from South Africa. This system fundamentally reshaped African economies. Subsistence farming, which had sustained communities for generations, was often replaced by cash crop monocultures, making regions dependent on volatile global markets. Infrastructure like railways was built, but not for the benefit of Africans. These were extraction lines designed to move resources from the interior to the ports as quickly as possible. The social fabric was also torn apart. Colonial administrators imposed new laws and social hierarchies, often favoring one ethnic group over another, to maintain control, a tactic of divide and rule with devastating, long-lasting consequences. Missionaries brought new religions and Western education, which, while offering opportunities for some, also sought to undermine traditional beliefs and cultural practices. It was a complex, contradictory legacy, one of both supposed modernization and profound cultural disruption. The two world wars would prove to be major turning points. Hundreds of thousands of African soldiers were conscripted to fight for their colonial rulers in faraway lands. They fought and died for freedom and democracy in Europe, only to return home to find those same rights denied to them. This experience was radicalizing. It exposed the hypocrisy of the colonial mission and forged new connections between Africans from different territories. They shared their experiences, their grievances, and their growing desire for self-determination. In the aftermath of World War II, the world had changed. The old European empires were weakened, and a new global conversation about human rights and self-determination, championed by the United States and the Soviet Union, was taking hold. The stage was set for the rise of a new generation of African leaders. These were men and women who were often educated in the very Western systems designed to control them. They used the colonizers' language and political ideologies, nationalism, socialism, democracy, as tools for liberation. Figures like Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya, Leopold Sedar Senghor in Senegal, and Patrice Lumumba in the Congo emerged as powerful voices for independence. They were thinkers, orators, and organizers who galvanized millions. They organized political parties, led strikes, and mobilized mass protests. The Pan-African movement, which advocated for the unity and solidarity of all people of African descent, gained massive momentum. The dream was not just for individual nations to be free, but for a united, prosperous, and powerful Africa to take its rightful place on the world stage. The wave of independence began in the late 1950s. Ghana's independence in 1957 under Nkrumah was a pivotal moment. His famous declaration that Ghana's independence was meaningless unless it is linked up with the total liberation of the African continent resonated everywhere. The Year of Africa followed in 1960, when an incredible 17 nations gained their independence. It was a time of immense optimism and celebration. The vibrant colors of new flags replaced the colonial banners, and the air was filled with hope for a brighter future. But independence was not a magic wand. The newly freed nations faced immense challenges. The borders they inherited were artificial colonial constructs, often leading to ethnic conflict and civil wars. Decades of economic exploitation left them with economies dependent on their former rulers and underdeveloped infrastructure. Many new leaders, who had been brilliant freedom fighters, struggled with the practicalities of governing. The Cold War cast a long and destructive shadow. The USA and the Soviet Union saw Africa as a new battleground for influence, often propping up dictators and fueling proxy wars in their ideological struggle. Leaders who tried to chart a non-aligned, truly independent course, like Patrice Lumumba, often paid the ultimate price. The dream of Pan-African unity faced the harsh reality of national interests and external interference. Some nations descended into authoritarian rule and military coups. Others, like in South Africa, were still locked in a brutal struggle against a deeply entrenched system of racial segregation, apartheid. The fight for freedom there, led by figures like Nelson Mandela, would continue for decades, becoming a global symbol of the struggle for justice and human rights. It was a period of trial and error, of exhilarating successes and heartbreaking failures. Yet, through it all, the spirit of Africa endured. The 20th century also witnessed a cultural explosion. Writers like Chinua Achebe and Wole Soyinka gave the world powerful new perspectives, challenging a century of colonial narratives. Musicians like Fela Kuti and Miriam Makeba created revolutionary sounds that became the soundtrack for liberation. African art, fashion, and philosophy didn't just survive. They thrived, adapted, and influenced the entire world. As the century drew to a close, the continent was once again in a state of transformation. The end of the Cold War and the fall of apartheid in South Africa in 1994 marked the beginning of a new chapter. Democratic movements gained ground, and a new focus on economic development and regional cooperation emerged. The struggles of the 20th century, though painful, had forged nations. They had tested the resilience of its people and laid the groundwork for the 21st century. The story of Africa in the 1900s is not simple. It's a powerful, complex epic of resistance against overwhelming odds, the difficult birth of new nations, and the unshakable resilience of a continent's people and their culture. It's a history that was forged in fire, a testament to the enduring human quest for freedom and dignity. Understanding this century is crucial to understanding the Africa of today and the world we all live in. Thanks so much for joining us on this journey. If you found this story compelling, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history, and let us know in the comments what part of this story resonated with you the most. We'll see you in the next one.